Hello and good evening, Chicago. Welcome back into another episode of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Karnick back with you for another hour. We are going to be cruising all around the major teams in the city. We have got the Bulls on tap tonight, having to put a bow on what was a very, very, very disappointing season out on the west side. Then, after that, we'll be doing the second round of Make Your Case for the Chicago Bears 9th overall draft pick. We've got some names lined up. Why the Bears should be bringing this guy in at number 9, Bijan Robinson. It's going to be one of them. Zay Flowers, another guy that we'll talk about. Who else could be on that list? Stick around and we'll find out. And then, finally, we've got some new basketball players in town for the Sky. A couple of new draft picks to meet. We will discuss about the latest acquisitions for the Chicago Sky, and we'll check in ever so briefly on the weekends that were for the White Sox and the Cubs. One that went really well, one that did not go so well. All that, plus we'll see what else is on tap for tonight. You are locked in to Chi-Town Weekly. Buckle on up, everybody. Let's go. And once again, hello and good evening, everyone. I am your host, Adam Karnick. You have found your way in to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. Glad that you are here with us tonight on this Monday evening. So, lots to be going through on tonight's show. We'll be getting you caught up on everything. We are going to be spraying to all fields. We're going to be talking basketball, both the Bulls and the Sky tonight. We're going to be talking, of course, Bears draft. We're also going to be talking some baseball tonight. So lots and lots to get through as we go here. But before we go any further, of course, we do need to remind you that for the last 8+ years now, nearly 9 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans and for the fans. And with your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. First one starts at just $5 a month. This donation gets you a shout-out on every one of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. Want to thank our Patreon supporters now: Bay Area Raised, Amlos Great, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous. Thank you for your continued support. IE Sports Radio, of course, is available on all of the major social media platforms, whether that is Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. They're all there for you. Just search at IE Sports Radio. And then this show is available for you also on Twitter at IESRC is where you will find us there on Twitter. Or if you want to follow along with me personally, you can do that at Adam_Karnick. And if you are listening live here tonight, Monday night, 7 o'clock, you can hop on into the chat room there in Spreaker, make yourself a little username, log on in. We can interact and have some fun that way. Taryn Rodriguez, as always, is the first one in the chat tonight, reminding us that unfortunately the Bulls aren't the only ones that got knocked out and eliminated since last we spoke. The Loyola men's volleyball team lost to McKendree in the first round of the MIVA conference tournament. And so they are now eliminated. They were in the quarterfinals, dropped to a seven-seeded McKendree there. So it was a great start to the season for Loyola men's volleyball, but unfortunately it did not end the way they would have liked, getting knocked out in the quarterfinals of the MIVA. Ouch, indeed. Taryn is the host of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio. Regularly, he would be immediately after us on Monday evenings, but today he had to go earlier in the afternoon. So actually, we are it today for IE Sports Radio. We'll be on for just a little bit over an hour tonight, and then that'll be that. We will pass the baton on to the Tuesday shows. So if you missed it earlier today, you can go to Spreaker and find the playback, or YouTube, any of the other places where you can find our playback, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all those things. And if you aren't listening live here on Monday night, if you happen to be listening either on YouTube or Spotify or any of the others there, or you just want to sit back and let me just listen to my voice, thank you for being here. That's the important part. I appreciate your support, however you are providing it. So I wanted to start the night off tonight with the Bulls. Obviously, there was excitement last week on Wednesday when they had that amazing come-from-behind win in Toronto. Only then they followed it up with a loss in Miami to the Heat. I don't really like to toot my own horn or pat myself on the back. I'm just going to say I hate it when I'm right. I commented on last week's show that I could see the Bulls getting past the Raptors. It was not exactly the way that I thought it would happen, but they did indeed survive Toronto and got back from that. But my concern was if the Hawks beat the Heat going into that for the 7 seed, then the Bulls would be in trouble when it came time for the 8 seed. And unfortunately that's what happened. That is unfortunately exactly what happened. Is the Heat took care of business on Friday night, and that was that for the Bulls. That game Wednesday was a lot of fun, though. You saw in that Zach went off in the second half of that game, and you felt like, yes, there is the max player. There is the guy that they spent all the money on and clearly and obviously made the face of the franchise, and you're seeing it here when the stakes are at their highest. So you love seeing that aspect of it. You hate that they were down by 19 in the game, but I love seeing that Zach put the team on his back and willed them to victory Wednesday night. Friday night, they just not a great game. Not a great game by the Bulls in that one, unfortunately. They got close a couple of times. They did manage to tie it and even take a brief lead in that second half, but you never really felt like, oh yeah, this is the Bulls game. This is a Bulls game to win here. It was just a feeling of just the Heat, whether it was Jimmy Butler or whether it was Max Strus or just whatever the case was. You just felt like that's the way this game was going to go, that it was just going to go Miami's way. And unfortunately, that's how it finished out. That's how it finished up. And now the Bulls are done. Now they're sitting on the outside looking in on the playoffs. Karnisovitz, for what it's worth, had guaranteed at the trade deadline that the Bulls would make the playoffs, not the play. in my estimation, the play-in doesn't count for that, but you got a lot of questions now for this team. What direction are they going to move in? What are they going to do? What is next for this team, for this program? And Karnishevitz, the front half of AKME, talked over the weekend shortly after they were eliminated, and he reiterated he doesn't want to go for a rebuild. In his mind, we've been there, done that. We're not going to do that again so soon. That we just did this in 2021. We're not going to turn around and blow this thing up and rebuild again. He wants to bring back Vucevic. They've got a lot of free agents that they've got to decide what they're going to do with these guys. They've got a lot of pending free agents. I'm pulling up the list right now as we speak. So as we sit here, here's the list of pending free agents for the Bulls now. Nikola Vucevic, Ayo Dosunmu is a restricted free agent. Andre Drummond, he's got a player option for next season. Javonte Green, Derek Jones, he's also got a player option. Kobe White is a restricted free agent. Patrick Beverley and Terry Taylor, also Taylor, White, and Dosunmu are restricted free agents. Drummond and Jones have player options. Beverly, Green, and Vucevic are all straight free agents. Karnishevitz talked about wanting to bring Vucevic back. And Vucevic, for what it's worth, he has said he wants to be back. That it's up to the front office and his agent, but if it were up to him, he'd like to be back in Chicago. He's enjoyed his couple 2-3 years that he's been in Chicago. He would like to be back. Kobe White, I think, makes a lot of sense to bring back because he's one of your few guys that is starting to get comfortable shooting the three. You look at his stats on the season. He was a 37% shooter from three. He started to get better with that and start to develop more of that, and the team started to develop more of that around him as the season went on. And in fact, for the guys who took, a regular amount of them, he was third on the team. It was Kobe White was at 37.2%, Zach LaVine 37.5%, and Patrick Williams was at 41.5% from three. So I like the idea of bringing Kobe White back. I like the idea of bringing Vucevic back. The problem is if you bring all the same guys back, why do you think the results will be any different? yes, I like what Kobe White turned into towards the end of the season. Yes, I like the idea of a Nikola Vucevic overall. I like the idea of Ayo Dosunmu. But at some point, you can't keep bringing back the same team and just expect that, oh, yeah, it's going to be different this time. Well, this time it's going to be different. Well, why is it going to be different? You gave Billy Donovan an extension. He's not going anywhere. You're bringing back all the same players. This team went 40-42 this season. You're not changing coaches. You're not changing players, but you're expecting that things will be different. And Karnishevitz talked about how he liked how they went 14-9 over their final 23, post All-Star break. But that's an incredibly small sample size. And what you've seen, look at the much larger sample size from basically February of 2022 until the 2023 All-Star break. This was not a playoff team. This was one of the worst teams in the NBA. So I don't see how bringing back the same guys and the same coach is going to affect any kind of change. But what else can the Bulls do? They don't have any draft picks for this year. They have a 7% chance of having a draft pick. They've traded the rights to this current pick. They owe Orlando a pick. And unless I believe this current pick, they wind up in the top 4 in the lottery. I'm double checking right now as we speak here. I believe it's yes, yeah. If they wind up in the top 4 in the draft lottery, then they can hang on to the pick. Otherwise, they owe Orlando their first round pick. They don't have a second round pick. They owe that, I believe, to San Antonio. Yeah. Then they owe their second round pick. They owe their second round pick to San Antonio. And then even if they wind up with a pick in the top 4, then it gets very convoluted and it gets very blah, trying to figure it all out. I'm glad that the NFL doesn't have this mechanism in place of, well, you can trade it, you get our pick, but if it winds up here, then we get to hang on to it, kind of a thing. I'm glad the NFL doesn't do that. Either you traded the pick or you didn't. But there's a 7% chance that the Bulls could wind up with a draft pick. There's a 93% chance that they'll wind up sending their first round pick to Orlando to complete the Nikola Vucevic trade from a couple seasons ago. And in fact, the NBA actually just, they didn't have the lottery tonight, but they did have some tiebreakers to finalize the odds for everybody. The Bulls wound up, for what it's worth, they did actually wind up winning their tiebreaker over Oklahoma City. So now they have a 1.8% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick, the Wembanyama sweepstakes there. Detroit, Houston, and San Antonio all have the best odds at 14% of getting the number 1 overall pick. The Bulls have a 1.8% shot at getting the number 1 overall pick. They've got a 7% shot at winding up in the top 4. That would mean moving up a minimum of 7 spots to get into the top 4. That's a tall ask there for the Bulls. They don't have a whole lot of ping pong balls for this lottery, but we'll see what happens. You hate to say that their entire offseason is dependent upon the way some ping pong balls come out, but I fear that's what it's going to be for the Bulls. I don't know what more else they could do. So it's going to be a very interesting offseason. We'll get in touch with Davidson Crooks at some point. He is one half of Fast Break here on Sunday evenings on IE Sports Radio. We'll get his opinion on what the Bulls can do this offseason, but it's not looking great right now for the Bulls. An unfortunate end to what has got to be one of the most disappointing seasons in recent Bulls history. All right, from NBA draft talk to now we're going to switch gears and go over to NFL draft talk. We are going to make your case. Get them into the chat room. I've got a few names lined up already, but we are going to make the case for why the Bears should draft your guy at number 9. That's coming up right on the other side of this break. Do not go anywhere. You have Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For a down south education on Florida sports and athletics, it's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Lentarius Law.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back on into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Karnick back with you. We talked a lot of Bulls there in the first segment. Now we're going to switch over and talk some Bears because the draft, of course, is next week, Thursday. Thank goodness it's almost here. My gosh, the build-up and the hype and everything, it gets to you after a while, doesn't it? Well, we're trying to make it a little more fun and have a little bit of excitement with it with this latest segment, Make Your Case. We started it last week. I had some players suggested to me by some Bears fans from some colleagues here at IE Sports Radio, and I tasked myself with trying to make the case for why each of these players would be the pick for the Bears at number 9 overall. So wanted to go briefly through, and if you want to hop in, this is a great point in the show. Hop on into the chat room if you've got somebody that you would like me to make your case for you. Hop on into the chat room right now. You can put the name up there. I'm going to give you the names that we did last week so we don't have any repeats. And if you want to hear my cases for each of these players, go to last week's episode. It was at the 48-minute mark of the show, roughly was where the segment started. Last week we did Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, Peter Skoronski, Jalen Carter, and then humorously, we did Bryce Behringer, the punter from Michigan State. So if any of those guys were on your list, if any of those were your guy, go back, check out last week's episode. This week, I've got some great names listed again, so we're going to dive on into it here. First, we're going to go with one that Mike Pat, the host of Let's Whine About DMV Sports, you can hear him on Friday nights, breaking all things down in football for the Washington Commanders, also the Baltimore Ravens. He does a lot of talk for them. You learn a lot about wine, which is a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. It's a great show. He wanted to hear about Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson, let's make your case. Running back out of Texas. 21 years old, 6 foot 220. Of course, the obvious case here with Bijan Robinson is that when you're drafting as high as you are, the Bears still inside the top 10, even with the trade down from 1. You still want to come away with an impact player, with a dominant player. You want to feel like you came away with arguably the best player at his position. And that's what you'd be getting with Bijan Robinson. You would be coming away with the best running back in this class. I've got his draft profile from Athlon Sports in front of me here, and listen to some of these strengths. He's the prototype for the modern game, a big back with little back skills. He has the size, lower body strength, and outstanding contact balance to thrive as a between-the-tackles runner, but his skill set goes far beyond that. He has exceptional body control for a 220-pounder with the start-stop ability and spatial reasoning to not only power through tacklers, but also keep them from making any clean contact on them. He proved to be adept running inside, mid, and outside zone at his best as a one-cut runner on outside designs. He's a natural hands catcher who transitions upfield quickly and has the ability to force missed tackles in space through power and elusiveness. He has a third gear to hit the home run. That's something that you know that Poles values, is that speed element. His production was outstanding despite some work-in-progress quarterbacks complimenting him in Austin. He is hands down the best running back in this class. He would be a weapon for Justin Fields. And the Bears are at a position where they need weapons, regardless of, they need pieces. You name just about any position on this roster outside of quarterback and maybe now outside of linebacker, and they have questions at that position and wide receiver to some extent. But they've got questions at those positions. They've got a question at running back. Absolutely, unquestionably. You draft Bijan Robinson at number 9 overall, you know that he's going to be your starter. He's going to be your lead back. No offense to Khalil Herbert. He can still sub in. There's still room for 2 backs to be in the backfield with this offense. But you're coming away with the guy who is the best prospect at his position, and it fills a hole on the roster. What else are you looking to accomplish with a top 10 pick but that? It checks all the boxes for you. I subscribe a little bit to the Hub Arkish line of thinking as far as drafting. Hub Arkish, of course, a long-time NFL writer for Pro Football Weekly, contributes to 670 The Score. He contributes locally, nationally, all kinds of stuff. You can find his work out there. And he's always said your goal for any draft class is to come away with 2 starters. You want your first round guy and then somebody else. You take Bijan Robinson at number 9. He is a starter for you. So mission accomplished there. That's the case there for Texas running back Bijan Robinson at number 9. Next, we're going to move over to wide receiver a little bit. We are going to talk Now, and this suggestion comes from Patty Bax, another IE Sports Radio colleague. You can catch her Tuesday evenings at 6 o'clock Central Time here on IE Sports Radio, the Buffalo Huddle. Talking all things Buffalo sports, a lot of Buffalo Bills, a lot of Buffalo Sabres, though the Sabres unfortunately failed to qualify for the NHL playoffs, so she's not going to be talking about them as much now. Also gives you your motivational thought for the week. Another excellent show here on IE Sports Radio. Definitely check Patty out. I very much enjoy her work and her shows every week. Well, she wanted to hear the case for Zay Flowers, so he is next. Zay Flowers, 22-year-old wide receiver from Boston College, 5'9", 170 pounds. And this breakdown is going to come from Athlon Sports. Flowers stayed loyal to Boston College rather than entering last year's draft or taking NIL money to play elsewhere. He still put up a 1,000-yard season on a team that otherwise struggled badly. His game is built on quickness and acceleration, with both the long speed to threaten a defense over the top and the quick, fluid athleticism to get in and out of sharp breaks. Just as important, he shows an innate feel for tempo as a route runner, getting defenders leaning and wrong-footed at the top of his route. He was highly respected as a team leader with tremendous football character at Boston College. Played 4 seasons at Boston College. 22-year-old wide receiver Zay Flowers finished with 200 catches for 3,056 yards, averaged 15.3 yards per catch, 29 touchdowns for 29 receiving touchdowns. He also ran for 345 yards and 2 touchdowns with the Eagles of Boston College. For Zay Flowers, the argument here is you're taking care of a slot receiver. You are, once again, you're giving Justin Fields a weapon. Fields needs weapons. That's one of the things from this past season that we saw desperately. The Bears do not have enough weaponry on this team in this lineup. You go with Zay Flowers. You know you're giving him yet another weapon. Somebody that you're putting into the slot in the pros. You're a slot receiver, which is a spot that right now you're not sure who you're putting there. Are you putting Darnell Mooney there? Are you putting Velus Jones there? What are you going to do with the slot? You draft Zay Flowers, you know he is your slot receiver, and then you can let Claypool and Mooney duke it out for the 2 spot, one backing up the other. You can have Velus Jones then concentrate on his kick returning and his punt returning, occasionally sub into the slot or into that funky scat back kind of role there. It's basically a do-over and a correction of the Velus Jones pick from a year ago while still figuring out a way to utilize Jones. Flowers, he's got speed. And that's something that we know that Poles likes and puts a lot of emphasis on. He ran a 4.42 40-yard dash at the combine. This definitely feels like this is somebody who would be a slot receiver, which would be which again, that's something the Bears need. So you're taking care of a position of need by going with Zay Flowers. So there's the case there for going with Zay Flowers, wide receiver out of Boston College at number 9 overall for the Bears. Next, this one came from colleague Matt Garner. He was on the show, my last show before I left for paternity leave. Had those few weeks off there on paternity leave. This was another suggestion that came from him. He had brought up Peter Skoronski last week. Now we're going to talk about Paris Johnson, the offensive tackle from Ohio State University. Paris Johnson, 21 years old, 6'7", 310 pounds. Again, from Athlon Sports. After playing guard early in his career, Johnson had a chance to move out to left tackle as a junior and thrived. He's a natural on the outside, a big, fluid athlete with nimble feet and outstanding balance. He has the heavy hands to win with relative ease when he times his initial punch properly. Even when he doesn't, his recovery athleticism is special with the quick feet, length, and flexible core to retain an edge. Despite it being his first season at tackle at the college level, he was outstanding, even against elite competition last season. In the run game, he has the athleticism and speed to range far out on the perimeter, and he has a nastiness when it comes to finishing the play. That is Paris Johnson Jr., tackle from Ohio State. We talked last week about Peter Skoronski probably being the best overall offensive lineman in this class. Paris Johnson, you can be more focused. He is almost certainly the best tackle in this class. You look at the Bears, the way their offensive line is set up right now. They feel confident in Braxton Jones at left tackle. You've got Tevin Jenkins right now at left guard. Cody Whitehair penciled in at center. Nate Davis absolutely in at right guard. You have a gaping hole at right tackle. The argument with Skoronski is even if he doesn't work out at tackle, you can bump him inside and you know that you can find a hole for him, probably at center. Johnson, you know he's going to be your right tackle. You don't have to question or wonder about what position he winds up at. I would like to see him as a left tackle and move Braxton over to the right side, but it sounds like the Bears really are high on Braxton Jones and they are confident that he can make a push, he can make some development, some strides this offseason into becoming a better left tackle. So Paris becomes your right tackle. He can run block. He's got a nastiness to him. That's something that you've got to have as an offensive lineman in the NFL. You've got to have a little bit of nasty to you. He's got that. And again, you know he's your right tackle. You pencil him in, you plug him into that spot, you know that you are getting a starting quality caliber tackle in the NFL by going with Paris Johnson. That is Paris Johnson Jr., starting tackle from the Ohio State University. We're going to do one more here. I want to pull up my list here. We will go with. All right, we're gonna go defense here. We've done offense here with the first three. We're going to go defense now for this last one, and then we're going to take a break. This one also comes from Matt Garner. We are going to do Tyree Wilson, edge rusher from Texas Tech University. As I get my edge rushers pulled up here for from my Athlon breakdown. This is, by the way, these breakdowns, these strengths are all coming from Athlon Sports NFL Draft Preview. Now it did come out before the combine, so there's some things that they don't have here, but I love the write-ups and the rankings that they have. The rankings at this point, of course, take with a grain of salt because lots of things have happened, but it's a nice write-up for you. I like Athlon overall. All right, Tyree Wilson, 22 years old, 6'6", 270 pounds from Texas Tech. One of the most physically dominant edge players in the nation, Wilson combines outstanding length with powerful hands and regularly bullies offensive linemen. His game is built around power, especially with the ability to dominate blockers with active hands while generating push with a powerful lower half. He's a flexible and athletic mover as well, with the ability to dip around blockers on the way to the backfield, and he plays with a nice pad level considering his height. He played snaps as a stand-up linebacker and can reduce inside to take advantage of less athletic guards. He has the elite burst to finish plays, and he flashes impressive speed and a non-stop motor when chasing down plays from behind. Played 4 years at Texas Tech, finished with 32 tackles for loss, 17 career sacks, 16 quarterback hits, forced 1 fumble, and did have a pass breakup. That is Texas Tech defensive end Tyree Wilson. We talked last week how if Jalen Carter is sitting there at 9, you kind of have to take him. If Tyree Wilson is sitting there at 9, even if you had something else planned for your draft, you've got to take Wilson. He is that good. He is absolutely, automatically your best pass rushing defensive end on the team if he's sitting there at 9. He is somebody that offensive coordinators, offensive players, offensive coaches, they have to know where he is. They have to understand how to game plan to stop him because he can wreck the offense's game plan in there. 6'6", 270, absolutely the height and build. It reminds me a bit of Julius Peppers, how Peppers could not only play outside, but on certain passing situations was more than willing and capable to slide inside and get after people that way too. So you could suddenly wind up with multiple, with 3 pass rushers on the defensive line and obvious passing downs and really create matchup problems. I'm not saying that Wilson would be Julius Peppers, but that's what that reminds me of a little bit when I hear that, when I hear these things and read these comments about him. So Wilson, I would be very surprised if Wilson is there at 9. But again, if he is, you take him. He's probably the number 2 edge rusher in this class. The only guy that we might put ahead of him would be Will Anderson. So if Wilson is there at 9, you take him because he would absolutely. The Bears' pass rush was less than anemic last year. It was horrible. It was atrocious. They had no pass rush. Wilson would give you a pass rush. So if he is there, you absolutely unequivocally need to take him. That is Tyree Wilson of Texas Tech. And this has been Make Your Case. We will do this one more time. We'll do this next week's show. We'll get some fresh names lined up. Again, if you have a name that you want to nominate, hit me up on Twitter at Adam_Karnick, at IESRC. You can get them to me that way. I've got some ideas in mind, but please tell me the names that you would like me to break down. Also, some quick programming notes before we leave this segment. I know you NFL junkies, you've all been doing your mock drafts. How would you like to get something for doing a mock draft? All you need to do is fill out a first round only mock draft for the entire NFL. It's 31 picks this year. Remember, the Dolphins don't have one. They were naughty. 31 picks, each team in order, no trades. Send them over to Mike Pat at Let's Wine DMV on Twitter. You can get them to him there, or you can tag IE Sports Radio at IE Sports Radio. Heck, if you want to send it to me at Adam_Karnick, get it over to us before the first round. Before the first round next Thursday night. Let's Wine _IESR. That's Mike's. That is Mike's Twitter handle. You can send them to him, DM him. You get entered into our IE Sports Radio competition. You win. You get a shout out on every single one of our shows. Plus, we'll find some swag to send your way. We've got shirts, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, all kinds of fun paraphernalia we can send your way. And it doesn't cost you anything. What have you got to lose? That's a first round only NFL mock, no trades. Everybody in the order that they are set right now. Get those over to Mike Pat. Also, tune in this Saturday to a special edition of 3 and Out with Larry B and possibly some special guests, including Mike Pat and perhaps yours truly. We'll see who else might be involved in that. Time is still TBA, TB announced, to be decided. We're going to be going through and discussing the first round of the NFL draft and making some predictions of our own. So tune in. That's this coming Saturday to 3 and Out. All right, we are going to take one more break, and then when we come back, we've got some other draft talk, but this time it's WNBA draft talk. The Chicago Sky, they were busy with trades ahead of the draft, but they did wind up making a couple of draft selections over last week. It was actually while we were doing the show. Well, we want to get to know some of these two young women. We want to get to meet the two newest members of the Chicago Sky. So we will do that next here on Chi-Town Weekly on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We will be right back after this.
Down! Green team! Set! Hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Are you a fan of Buffalo sports? Are you thinking of changing loyalties and becoming a Buffalo sports fan? Do you even know where Buffalo is on the map? Did you know Canada is closer to Buffalo than New York City? Welcome to the Buffalo Huddle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Patty Bax. This is a podcast designed for you, the passionate sports fan. I know you love your sports. Who doesn't? I cover Buffalo sports and so much more by bringing in the human elements. I call it Buffalo sports with a twist. Join me as we take a journey into the world of Buffalo sports. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Buffalo just like I did. Each week we start with an inspiration, question of the day, a Buffalo fun fact, and our weekly challenge to you, the listener. Come huddle up with me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time for the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As we say in Buffalo, go Bills!
IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always willing to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. Adam Kernick here with you for just a couple of more minutes before we wrap up the show for tonight. Again, we are tonight. No set point immediately after, so we've got a couple of minutes here on the back end of the show that we can kind of finish things up and wrap this up here. Lots of draft talk. We discussed earlier that the NBA draft, the Bulls maybe will wind up with a pick, but most likely they're not going to have any picks. Going to make it difficult to figure out how to proceed and make this roster work, since AKME has insisted that this is not going to be another rebuild situation. We made our case for several Bears players to get drafted at number 9. Then we're going to wrap this up with a little bit more draft talk. This time we're going to go, though, to the WNBA. The WNBA draft was last week, and according to WNBA figures, this was the second highest watched WNBA draft in their league's history, their most since 2004. So eyeballs were glued to it. The Sky made two selections. They had a second-round pick, and they had a third-round pick. In the second round, they went with point guard Kiana Traylor out of Virginia Tech. Kiana, originally from Martinsville, Indiana. She had played at Purdue before transferring in to Virginia Tech. Coming off of her fifth-year senior season where she averaged just under 31 minutes a night in 35 games, 11 points, 3.5 rebounds, 3 assists per night with the Hokies. We will see if Kiana Traylor will be able to step into the starting point guard spot. They're vacated, of course, by the loss of Courtney Vandersloot, leaving to go to New York. So Kiana Traylor, the first Sky selection. The other selection that they made in the third round from Middle Tennessee, and I am trying to make sure that I pronounce her name correctly. So give me just a minute here while I make sure that I am pronouncing it correctly, because the last thing I'd want to do is get this wrong. From Middle Tennessee, a forward from Middle Tennessee. And of course, everything that I'm finding is all audio instead of I just want to see it. Senya Malashka from Middle Tennessee, a forward. She comes again from Middle Tennessee State University, a 6-foot-tall forward. She played her career there at Middle Tennessee, and now her stats won't load. I apologize. Apologize for not having this up. She's originally from Belarus. She played 2 seasons for Virginia Commonwealth before coming over to Middle Tennessee State. She averaged 15.1 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 1.7 assists for Middle Tennessee this past season. She was the Conference USA 6th Player of the Year winner for the second year in a row. And she came off the bench for 29 of her 32 games this past season. So congratulations to both of those young women. Malashka finished with 1,207 career points in her collegiate career, including 904 at Middle Tennessee State. And even though she was on the bench, she frequently would score in double digits. So couple of good young women for the Sky. We'll see what they can do with the team. All right, before we get out of here, real quick, baseball, got to talk about the Cubs. They are just about set. They're going to be getting underway in Oakland here in just about a half hour or so. Fresh off of taking 2 out of 3 from the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Cubs are feeling good, riding high right now, currently sitting at second place in the National League Central, just 2 games behind the Milwaukee Brewers, and effectively tied with the Pittsburgh Pirates. The hell are the Pirates doing up there? Well, that'll round itself out. So hopefully the Cubs able to take care of business out there on the West Coast, take at least 2 here from, hopefully they take at least 2 of these 3 from from the A's. The A's come into this right now at 3-13 overall. So hopefully the Cubs able to at least take 2, if not all 3 of these games here this week. The White Sox, they were supposed to play earlier today against Philly, but the lovely snow that we were having earlier today postponed that. They're instead going to play a doubleheader tomorrow. The Sox, they are not having a good start to the season, just 6-10 overall. They dropped 2 out of 3 to the Orioles, and they have yet to take a series on this season. Hopefully, they can get that turned around. They're going to have ultimately now 3 games in 2 days against the Phillies. We'll see. The Phillies also coming in at 6-10. We will see what they can do, because otherwise, I mean, after that, they go down to Tampa Bay to take on the Rays. I don't like their odds of taking that series. Then they go up to Toronto, take on the Blue Jays before they close out the month with a 4-game series against the Rays. So if they don't take this series against the Phillies, we could easily be talking May before the White Sox win a series. All right, that is going to do it for our show here tonight. Thank you to Larry B. All your hard work, sir, behind the scenes. It is not going unnoticed. Larry B., of course, he is the head honcho here at IE Sports Radio. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Race, Emlos Great, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous. If you want to become a Patreon supporter, starts at just $5 a month, then you get a shout out on all of our shows. Higher tiers get you access to more and more and more of the station, more of the network, and it helps us out. It really does. Allows us to do things like live calls and just more and more shows that we're able to do. Thank you to Taryn for hanging out with us tonight in the chat room. Finally, thank you, the listener, for hanging out with us. We did a little over an hour tonight, a little bit getting more into the groove of things as I come back from paternity leave. So more and more things to talk about and settle into. Next week's show, lots to go over. Of course, we're going to be doing one more round of Make Your Case. I will be starting the show with that, so get your names out there. Again, hit me up at Twitter at IESRC, at Adam_Kernick, or you can also just send them to IE Sports Radio directly at IE Sports Radio on all the major social platforms. Let them know who you'd like to hear me make the case for the Bears to take it number 9 overall. Also on the docket for next week, we have one last member of the Blackhawks dynasty to say goodbye to, but it's arguably the most important. Jonathan Taves has played his final game as a Blackhawk. We will discuss that next week as well. If you want to talk more hockey, tune in tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Central. Myself and Zach Popoulos will be breaking down the Stanley Cup playoffs. They have started tonight. They'll be going on tomorrow. Until then, I am Adam Kernick for IE Sports Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in. Everybody have a great night. Stay safe. We will see you next time.